But the problem is just that, like, this category has, like, very limited options. And then the options it does have aren't super, like, consistent. Like, for example, like, we are currently a few mere hours away from finally having the LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Gogeta be back at the helm where they belong. I have this guy rainbowed, and it's disrespectful how much I have not used him. But with that being said, what I'm about to focus on right now is not on the good things, which is GT Heroes. No. We're gonna focus on something a little bit more dastardly, a little bit more disgusting, and that would be the one, the only, the absolute worst. I actually think I already awakened him. All right, let's find him. Where is he? It has to do with GT. It does have to do with GT, but it ain't GT Heroes. No. It is not GT Heroes. It would be the exact polar opposite. That's right, GT Bosses. I absolutely, positively don't know if it's just me, but this category is disrespectful. The fact that Omega Shenron runs it is amazing, beautiful, amazing. But it's such a bad category because you need such specific units to have such a mediocre, and honestly, in my opinion, right now, unrunnable team. Like, where are you running this at? Like, who in their right mind is basically going to be like, yeah, do that. You got it. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. And what motivated me to do this is that there's a mission to clear the 2nd anniversary with 6 characters, and lo and behold, GT Bosses with the category. Now, when it comes to Omega, he's pretty good in and of himself. I mean, he's not horrible necessarily, but he's just one man. You know, much like STR Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, he's just one man. He can't do everything. So as you can see, he's a GT Bosses 200% lead, only GT Bosses, nothing else. And that's it. That's all he's got. Him by himself changes key spheres for 7 turns into Rainbow. That ain't too bad. All enemies' attack and defense goes down 25%. Minuscule. It's kind of whatever. Key plus 3 in attack and defense 200%. For every attack, perform attack plus 20% up to 150. Then it says per GT Bosses category on the team, you do key plus 1 and damage reduction rate 5%. So you're looking at 30% damage reduction. That's actually okay. Then it says for every Rainbow Scarab Tame, damage reduction rate 7%. So you're looking at a potential possibility here. We can have like 51% damage reduction, which on paper sounds good, but in reality, he ain't really going to be doing all that much. And the problem is, go ahead and take a look at Bro's team. Bro ain't exactly got the best team. I mean, other than the Easy A that breathed new life into Super Baby 2, who here really is knocking boots loose? Who's really putting in work? Who's really going to actually be a viable option when it comes to, never mind harder events, any events, because these guys stink. They're terrible. And the thing that's crazy is that one of the hardest missions I ever did was the Dragon Ball GT Legacy of Goku mission, where you had to do it with just GT Bosses. And this is before AGL Omega existed. Understand that this Omega carries this team heavy. He carries this team. But this category predates this Omega. This Omega didn't come along and they made GT Bosses. No, it existed forever. So the fact that they actually have this nasty category, the fact that they actually created it really without even Omega in mind, it kind of shows, like, I don't know, it's kind of the same thing if you play this game long enough. There's certain categories that you kind of scratch your head and say, like, why do they even exist? Like Survivors, I don't know why it exists. One category that keeps getting disrespected, before I even say anything, let me go ahead and crack open a cold one. Sorry about that, I was just cracking open a stiff can of Chemical X, something here to forget about the GT Bosses dilemma. But one category that's really disrespected in this game is the Namek category, because honestly, they literally gave you a bunch of Piccolos and said, here you go, have fun, figure it out. And that's the same thing with this category too. Technically speaking, there is a couple of like Sin Shenrons and Omega Shenrons. So like you do have that weird situation where like you can't run double Sin Shenron. To be fair though, the Tech Sin Shenron is so much better than the 5 Sin Shenron even after Easy A, so it's not really that big of a deal. But the problem is just that like this category has like very limited options, and then the options it does have aren't super like consistent. Like for example, like like for example, Super 17, once he's transformed, he becomes somewhat of a tank, but before he transforms, he ain't a tank. It's dodge or die. It's dodge or die. It's dodge or die, ladies and gentlemen. So it ends up becoming a situation where like you have all these units that like aren't that good until they super, and then in the case of Super 17, he's not even that good until he transforms. And even when he transforms, honestly, somebody let me know if STR Super 17 ever had like a peak. Was he ever good, like on paper? Because I ain't seen it. I don't know. I have no idea if that's the case. But in my opinion, I think GT Bosses is too important of a category that it should be this mediocre and this bad. I don't know if they'll ever get support, because to be fair, to be honest, like Giant Ape Power is just now getting some support, which you technically could say is like half GT heroes and half like Great Apes. And they took forever, dude. Like you got a damn 7th year anniversary LR that basically runs that team, or could be part of that team. And it's just now getting all the units it needs to have like a full roster. Like technically, even after everything is said and done, like it really isn't good enough. Like if you look at Giant 8 Power, it's not until like Int LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku gets his EZA that they kind of have it locked down and pat. But they at least got options. They at least got something going on. This team, it's just like you're grasping at straws. You're like, please God. Like when I was making this team, I actually was like, damn, like who even goes on this team? Because obviously you have Omega Shenron, obviously you have Sin Shenron, but then like you just draw a blank, and then everyone else is just not that good. Like they don't even have role players. Like one thing I wish they would have done is just to give you like a Nova Shenron or another Shenron that isn't Sen Shenron or Omega Shenron that actually is pretty decent when it comes to like dodging or blocking. Or bro, just give this team a tank. Like let's be honest here, like this team basically relies solely on luck, really. I mean, like let's be honest, like obviously you have a couple of people here who like build their defense after super. They're okay, but no one here is like slot 1, and even if they were slot 1, they end up not gelling well, they end up not linking together. Like the fact that this baby exists is actually a miracle, because up until this baby was here, I basically would just bring another Sin Shenron and try to float them around. So it's pretty awkward, it's pretty weird. It's one of those weird things where like I don't know, like do you think there should be a minimum amount of characters for a category to exist? Like I get GT Bosses is a category, I get that it is a category that exists, but like there's not that many characters. Like how does Dokkan come up with a new category? Like you have a character like Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta who's in 50 billion categories and each one is stacked, and then you have a character like Omega Shenron where it's like, okay, like what are you in? Like unless they make a big bad bosses category where it's like, forget it, just put on a villain. Like they ain't really going to be doing that. And that's the thing too that's kind of like hard, is like even with the 10th anniversary, you got units who basically lead pure Saiyans. Now what does that mean? That pretty much means every amazing good character, like a good non-extreme character, can basically be running that team. The same thing doesn't exist for extreme class characters. Like what are you going to say? Like unless you literally do a big bad bosses, that's the closest thing I can think of. Actually ain't a bad idea. I actually should think of doing that, considering that's pretty much the only way you can kind of get even or close to what Pure Saiyans have. But I just think it's funny that they actually made a category that pretty much is on death's door on release. Because remember, this Omega came later, so imagine this category without Omega Shenron and trying to run that. And that's pretty much what the Legacy of Goku mission was. It was disgusting. It was nasty. It really was like... It was so bad, I actually ran LR 17, Super 17. And now notice, you did not hear me say the word Super 17 other than this STR 17. I don't bring up that bum Tech 17. It's disrespectful to Super 17 because he gave Super Saiyan 4 Goku a run for his money. You know, it wasn't all that easy. It wasn't, you know, a simple walk in the park. But looking at Dokkan, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that Super 17 ever had any markings of like a varsity athlete. He didn't look like he had anything going on, but he did. Okay, Super 17 was actually pretty lit. But that raises a good question. Not only does it raise a question of, will there ever be a time that GT Bosses is good? But does anyone even want GT Bosses to be good? Like, is anyone crying about this? Because I honestly forgot this category existed until I just saw the mission and was like, oh yeah, these bums, I remember them. I remember them needing literally like perfect rotations, and they pretty much are made up of like the only characters available in the game. That's their category. Like you make the team and you're like, oh, there's a whole category. Like everybody that's in this category is currently on the team right now. Like pretty much everyone is there. Like that's pretty crazy. Like that's pretty insane. Like you literally make a team, and after you're done making the team, it's like the gang's all here, guys. Everyone that's in this category is currently on this team. Good job, everybody. Amazing work. We've done it. And that's kind of what Namek Saga is. I mean, there's been a couple of developments, the biggest one being Orange Piccolo. But for a long time, it literally was like, all right, here's 4 Piccolos, a nail, and might as well go ahead and throw in King Piccolo there. Boom, there's the entire category that you can run on this one small team. Either way, we got the mission. Unfortunately, we did have to remember that the GT bosses category still exists. It does exist. I don't know if you remember, I didn't. I wonder if Dokkan will ever make this category usable, never mind good. And honestly, who is missing from this category? Because I can't tell you like, oh, if they add a ridiculous Omega Shenron, he's already in the game. He's already there. They already have their leader. So the question becomes, who's going to be the tank? Who's going to be someone who's kind of like the point man? And honestly, it's looking tough for GT bosses. That is looking like a 2027 project. I'm not going to even say 2026. 2027, we might look at GT bosses. But right now, we're working on the Giant Ape rebuild. We're looking at the GT Heroes reconstruction. And then we'll go ahead and look at the GT bosses down the road.